Hey there, it's Brett of Booster Therapy, and it marks a new month. It's August 2020, and yeah, we have another giveaway. In July, we gave away a Zurzoth EDH deck, complete with all the goodies. It was valued around $250 or more dollars, with, around $300 with the deck box and everything, and, well, we're doing it again. This time, I figured I'd show the commander. So, we're going to give away a full commander deck of Tatyova Benthic Druid. I'm going to be building that. It's going to be worth $200 plus. It's going to have a deck box, sleeved up, everything that you would need to pull it out of the box, play, and have a lot of fun, be focused, and, well, hopefully stomp your friends. So all you have to do in this month to qualify is the same as last month. Just comment on our videos, be a subscriber, make sure you're liking the videos. At the end of the month, we're going to gather all of these comments, pick one person at random, and that person is going to get that deck. We're going to ship it to you. It doesn't matter if you're in the United States or outside of the US. We're going to give it to you just for watching, being a subscriber, and enjoying the content. So, without further ado, enjoy the video. Have a great day. Welcome back to Booster Therapy and another episode of Commanding Presence. Today, we're going to actually break down the deck that we've been working to give away all in the month of July 2020. And that, of course, is Zurzoth, the Chaos Rider, one of our new commanders that came to us via Jumpstart. So Zurzoth, for 2 colorless and a red, is a 2/3. Whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever 1 or more devils you control attack 1 or more players, you have those players each draw a card, then discard a card at random. So, Zurzoth is all about making tons of little devils, having a bunch of fun, swinging in, making people draw when they don't want to, but they think they're excited about it, and it's just chaotic. So, before we dive into the deck, let's talk about who the winner is. The winner of the Zurzoth EDH giveaway deck is Jazzy Horde. Jazzy, thank you so much for being along for the ride, being a subscriber, all of the fun comments. We really appreciate you. And don't forget, everybody, in the month of August, we're giving away a Tatyova commander deck. So if you want that Tatyova deck, that's going to be nice, tuned up, in its own deck box, just like this one has a deck box and sleeves. It all comes fully loaded for you. Make sure you're a subscriber of the channel, you're hitting the thumbs up, and you're commenting on every single video. Even if you haven't watched the videos in the past of this month, just comment on everything in August. It enters you for a chance to win. So, as we do with all of our commander deck techs, the first thing we're going to break down, of course, is the ramp package. Ramp is a very important part of every commander deck. I have a hard time thinking you could play effectively without at least 10 pieces of ramp. So there are some circumstances where I think 8 is appropriate, but 10 is usually that sweet spot, maybe more, depending on how lean you want to run on your mana. The first thing we have here is Curse of Opulence. A lot of times we're selecting ourselves as a player here, so if anybody wants to attack us, we get to ramp. But if we see a threat, it's also a great target for the threat where everybody's already clipping in to just give us some of that extra mana. The next one is a Soul Ring, because what would a commander deck be without a Soul Ring, right? The best 1-mana ramp you can buy. Ruby Medallion, we're in mono red, so this functions as a really clean 2-mana ramp spell for all of our red spells. The Mind Stone, another great 2-mana ramp spell that has that added value of being able to be sacrificed to draw cards. Arcane Signet, yes, even in monocolored decks, this is such good 2-mana ramp that it is worth including, especially when we don't have access to green. The Iron Mirror, another good 2-mana ramp spell that also is a 1/1 body that we can clip in with, should we need it. The Ever-Flowing Chalice, typically we're just going to kick this once and get the 2-mana ramp, but in certain circumstances I could see us pushing this to tapping for 2 or tapping for 3 if we've got the available mana. The Cold Steel Heart, you name a color, this works really well with monocolor decks. Red is really the only logical choice here, and it taps for red. Burnished Heart is 3-mana ramp that when you sacrifice it, we get to get 2 basics into play tapped. Gadrick, the Crown Scourge, we're going to be killing a ton of our own creatures, and a lot of creatures are going to just die in general on our turn. This gives us treasures along the way. Treasonous Ogre, a nice little reprint from Mystery Boosters where we can pay 3 life to add that red mana should we need to. And of course, the Gilded Lotus, a giant ramp spell, 5 mana, but it taps for 3 red. Next, we're going to go over some of the utility creatures and then ultimately just our fun little devils that we have in the deck. This deck, full disclosure, isn't totally focused on Devil Tribal because Zurzoth does such a good job of creating a bunch of devils himself. So we're going to focus more on that mechanic. How do we get extra value from Zurzoth being the engine and wheeling our opponents? The first thing is Anger. Anger in the graveyard gives us haste across the board. We're going to be wheeling a lot. We'll see that in a moment here, and Anger is likely to end up there. If he gets on the board, we also have a couple ways to sacrifice him just to keep him where we want him. The next one is Rampaging Ferocidon, is we're pinging people down and sacrificing 1/1 devils that deal 1 damage to any target, likely a player target. Rampaging Ferocidon is just one of those ways that we lock out life gain, which is super important. There's a couple other ways we do that in this deck. It's important that we don't have our opponents gaining life because every piece of damage counts. The next one is Grenzo, the Havoc Raiser. Grenzo is an incredibly evil boy that we have one way to cheat him in so he doesn't get to be blocked. And being able to goad all of our creatures or get a couple extra card draw is always good for a 2/2 for 2 in red. The Stigma Lasher, it's another good way to permanently shut down somebody's ability to gain life. Molten Primordial, a great utility creature that gives us a creature from each of our opponents and we get to bash in with those, so just using their power against them. Urabrask, there's 2 things that this does. One, it gives us haste across the board, which is always great. In creature feature decks, you need haste. But the other thing that's nice about Urabrask is he's a tempo player. He really controls the flow of battle within the game, having all of the creatures our opponents control enter into play tapped. Subira Tolzidi Caravaner, this is a great one just to cheat in our 1/1s to make sure when we're attacking with our devils, we're not always losing it to combat damage and getting those draw triggers and creating more of them. But it also lets us sneak in things like the Stigma Lasher and other things like that, where we can get a creature in that can't be blocked and then get some extra value on discarding and drawing. Now we'll go into the devils. The first one is Vengeful Devil. This is just a great card because if it's dealing that damage, it's triggering Zurzoth and getting us the value we're looking to create. So Vengeful Devil, when something dies, is perfect. Charmbreaker Devils, this helps us get our wheels back. So it's a big devil, it's expensive, but being able to get an instant or sorcery back every single turn, and that for that spell to not exile after we cast it again is really great value. The Sin Prodder, a little bit of extra card draw, and it's a devil with menace. The Hell Rider, this thing can explode with damage, especially if we get some of our damage doubling, which is involved in this deck. Hell Rider on an all-out swing can be massive. The Vexing Devil, just because I love the card. It's a 1 mana 4/3 that's at least going to deal 4 damage to somebody. It's likely always going to do that, but it's fun to get it out there and have the thought of a 1 mana 4/3 devil. Make a friend, get it into play. Torian Mauler, probably one of the best devils in the game, as most shapeshifters end up being, the changeling of every deck that needs it, but it just ticks up and gets bigger as people play spells. Birthing Bows, this is just a good way to cheat in a couple, not cheat in, but actually get extra value and have a little bit of that Devil Tribal without playing Devil Tribal. For 4 mana, we create a 2/2 colorless devil every time. And the Fiendish Duel, a very new and very unknown card. This thing is massive. A 5/5 devil with first strike for 6, that if a source would deal damage to an opponent, not everybody, which is usually what damage doubling effects do, but an opponent, it deals double that damage. So a massive upside for getting double damage in with all of our little pinging and sacrificing in that little 1/1 hit that we get out of it. Next, we're going to talk through a few of our utility artifacts that we have in this deck. The first one is Embercleave. We're just going to be swinging away and doing a lot of combat damage. We're often just casting this for 2 really early in the game. Embercleave, we all know, is powerful. 1/1, double strike, trample, all in one little 2/2 flashed out card. So awesome, awesome value. Eldrazi Monument, we're going to have a board full of evil devils. This is a good way to pump them up, make them indestructible so we can just keep on swinging in, and also give us that sack trigger at the beginning to ping things down. The Caged Sun works great in any monocolored deck. It pumps up our whole crew and helps our mana tap for double. Coat of Arms, hopefully we have a board full of all sorts of devils, and this is just going to make them that much more brutal. Throne of the God Pharaoh, whenever you're in a combat-focused deck that goes wide, I highly recommend Throne of the God Pharaoh, because at the beginning of each end step, it's going to hit all of our opponents. They're going to lose life equal to the number of tapped creatures we have, which it wouldn't be strange to have 8 to 10 of those almost every turn, and we're just draining that life quickly. And it's a really cheap artifact to get out there. And then, of course, Dolmen Gate, so we can swing in without a care. We're not going to die to combat damage for any of our little 1/1s, so it leaves them available for our own sacrifice triggers, our own ways to use and get value out of them without just dying to our opponents. Next, we're going to talk about just a handful of our removal spells. The first one is for those greedy mana bases. Since we have to play monocolor, we want everybody else to be on the same playing field, so we play Ruination. Destroy all non-basic lands, so wiping, hopefully, a lot of useful lands off the board. Vandal Blast, that we can overload to destroy all artifacts we don't control, so if somebody is running any of those pesky ramp spells or solid utility artifacts or Aetherflux Reservoir, whatever they want to do, we take it away from them. And then Shatter Spree, just to give us another alternative into killing some of those artifacts. Next, let's talk a little bit about the card draw, the wheel, the how do we get that extra super value from Zurzoth. The first thing is Humble Defector. This one is just straight up card draw for us. It's a great political card too. You make a friend with it, you trade it back and forth, and both of you are just benefiting on that extra card. Extra 2 cards, actually. Faithless Looting, a great draw spell in red. You pay 1, draw 2, discard 2. Hopefully we're discarding something like Anger, but that often doesn't bother us. Stolen Strategy, a sneaky way to get card draw in red, especially in mono red, which doesn't have a ton of super useful card draw. Stolen Strategy gives us that extra value of 3 more cards every single turn from our opponents, and then we can go ahead and cast them. Skull Clamp, one of the most devastating draw cards in this deck. Skull Clamp is huge. We're making tons of 1/1 devils, sacrificing them, pinging whatever we need to ping, and drawing 2 cards. This thing is a fierce engine in itself. Korvath's Fury, it's a good wheel spell. In a pinch, it can do damage as well, equal to hand size if we need to pick foe or friend. We have the utility on this one. Magus of the Wheel, it's our wheel on a stick, a perfect little wheel. Discard, draw 7. Wheel of Fate, our delayed wheel. Again, just kind of giving us that extra draw, making sure our opponents are drawing on not their turn so we can make a bunch of little devils. Molten Psyche, another way to get our opponents to shuffle up and draw. This one isn't a pure wheel where they're discarding, but we're still shuffling up our deck, shuffling up our hand, drawing a new set of cards, and getting us that awesome value. The Runehorn Hellkite, another great target to discard. We're not looking to have a 5/5 dragon for 6, but if we can exile it and have everybody wheel, we're a fan. Reforge the Soul, it's our miracle wheel, so the same idea that we're talking about, just looking for more ways to wheel. Temple Bell. So on this is often something we're going to be tapping a lot on our turn to make everyone draw so we can get more of those devils. The Otherworld Atlas. So we put a charge counter on this, and then we can tap it at any time for everybody to draw cards equal to the number of charge counters. It's similar to Temple Bell. It's just giving us extra card draw for us, but also causing our opponents to draw not on their turns. And then the Howling Golem. This guy is a 2/3, so we can make him unblockable Subira, or if Dolmen Gates out, we don't really mind, but it's the same idea. It attacks, everybody draws, we make some devils. Next, we're going to talk about just a few of the Planeswalkers that sit inside this deck. The first one is Tibalt, Rakish Instigator. It's our 3rd way to stop life gain. It also gives us more devils, which is very on theme with this deck, but the most important part is keeping Tibalt alive to make sure our opponents aren't gaining any life throughout the wave of battle. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. We actually got the new spellbook version here. So Chandra is a great 4-mana ramp spell where you can up it 1 to get 2 red mana, and then it gives us so many other opportunities to play with this one. Sorry about that. That was a wild dog. This looks like somebody must have been at the door. So Koth of the Hammer is our last Planeswalker in this one. It gives us extra value with all the mountains we have. It also is kind of indirect ramp. We can -2 and just get a ton of red mana, especially late in the game. The next few things is going to be our way to add into the damage that we're getting off of all of our little devils. The first one is, of course, Purphoros. Any token strategy deck should really look at playing Purphoros. When we're spamming the board with card draw and extra devils, Purphoros is just pinging all of our opponents down 2 damage at a time. Next is Terror of the Peaks. Kind of a similar idea to Purphoros, not quite as efficient, but anytime a creature enters the battlefield, we're able to target anything and deal damage equal to its power. Goblin Bombardment, we get to sacrifice our creatures and ping them, so when we're sacrificing a 1/1 that deals damage, we're getting that extra damage out of it. Thermopod, if we need to sacrifice it to get lots and lots of mana to pay into one of our Finishing spells, that gives us access to it as well. And of course, Blasting Station. Blasting Station is just an effective little tap, sack, deal a damage, untap when a creature comes into play, so we can do it more than once when we need to. The next couple things are just a handful more of our utility enchantments. The first one is, well, an enchantment and artifact. It gives us haste. It's Hammer of Purphoros. War's Toll is another way to control our opponents and really help control the wave of battle and gameplay, making people tap out all at once, making people attack all at once. It really makes it tough for them to be, they have to be selective and be careful with what they're doing. And for us, well, we're clipping in all the time, and we have one strategy: make people draw cards, make devils, hit people hard. Purphoros, Bronze-Blooded, another great haste mechanic. It's indestructible as well. And a 7/6 indestructible that gives everything haste when it's online is pretty good. And Fiery Emancipation, a new one from Core 2021. It doesn't double, it triples the damage dealt on the board. The last couple spells in our deck are a couple utility spells, places that we can put that extra mana that we're making however we're doing it. The first one is Mob Rule, where we can hopefully gain control of most of the creatures on the board and just do an all-out furious attack later in the game. And the other one is Jaya's Immolating Inferno. So if we have a board full of 15, 20 devils and we can sacrifice them to Thermopod to make, 20 red mana, we're doing 20 damage any which way, and then we're putting an 18x into Jaya's Immolating Inferno, and we can do 18 to each of our opponent's heads. So it just is a way to capitalize on all the value, all the creatures, and really hit hard. The last couple things we're going to cover are actually our land base, normally something we generally ignore. Most of this is mountains, but there's a couple key lands in here to help us continue to create more of our little devils. Mikakoro, Center of the Sea, you tap 2, and tap it, each player draws a card, so we create a devil. And then we have the Gaia Reach Sanitarium. It's a similar idea, except you discard after we draw, but it's causing our opponents to draw. It's creating us devils, which is exactly what we're wanting to do. And that is our Zurzoth Chaos Rider deck. Jazzy, again, thank you for being a subscriber, commenting. We had a lot of fun making this for you. I'm looking forward to next month's video, or this month's video, it's August, and giving away that Tatiova deck. Until next time, this is Booster Therapy. You have a wonderful rest of your day.